One of the most core parts of playing Pokemon is the concept of hacks. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, hacks is defined as the word you've entered isn't in the dictionary. Click on a spelling suggestion below or try again using the search bar above. Well, there you have it. Hold on a sec, that doesn't sound right. For real though, hacks is another term for RNG or luck. Examples of hacks are things like critical hits, random paralysis chances, 10% burns off a flamethrower, etc. And its connotations specifically refer to the frustrating kind that can affect the outcome of a battle significantly. When it comes to me, specifically, my luck is bad. Very bad. Infamously bad. Which inspired me to do a video talking about hacks and how I'd make it less frustrating, specifically status conditions. But before that, how about we talk about the importance of it? Because, believe it or not, as irritating as the saw is, hacks is incredibly important for keeping competitive Pokemon fun and more balance. Without crits, walls would be virtually impossible to defeat for the majority of mons. Without barrier, speed control would be a lot harder to manage, and sweepers would be a lot more difficult to stop. Without burn, well okay, the same really with sweepers. Hacks gives players more of a chance to make comebacks and prevent steamrolls. So what I'm proposing here are not ways to get rid of hacks, as much as I often hate it. These are going to be ways to make it a little bit less frustrating, while still keeping the effects of these stats potent. So, let's get into this. My name's Cam. I have a games design degree that I never use. I'm comically unlucky, and I really cannot overemphasize this, extremely bad at Pokemon, as you are probably well aware if you've seen any of my other videos. You know, exactly what you want for this kind of discussion. We're going to split this video into two parts, non-volatile and volatile status conditions, but the video will be primarily focused on the non-volatile type, as they are the most relevant to the meta. Let's start off with burn. Burn is one of the most powerful conditions in the game, halving damage of physical moves and doing 1/16 damage at the end of each turn. There are very few moves that consistently cause burn, and all of them have some kind of catch. Well, except for Sizzling Slide. Thanks, Let's Go, but we're not counting you, so it's fine. Whether the catch be low accuracy, needing to be hit by a contact move, or some other weird interaction. Most fire type moves also have a 10% chance to burn inherently, and fire types of course resist burn. But, as strong as burn is, I feel like it's fairly balanced as is. The most consistent ways to burn are held back, as already said by the above, or by lower distribution amongst mons, and the burn chances for normal moves are low. And, while the effect is strong, it isn't particularly game-breaking, and is easier to play around than a lot of other statuses. Honestly, I'd go as far as to say that burn is probably the most balanced and consistent of statuses, well, apart from our next one. Poison is completely and utterly fine. Regular poison does an 8th damage to the affected target every turn, while badly poisoned Pokemon will take incrementing damage each turn. Interestingly, poison as a status is probably one of the most consistent to inflict, especially in earlier gens. Between toxic and toxic spikes, there are easy guaranteed ways to inflict the status. Thankfully, even these are relatively balanced out by the lower distribution as of the latest Gen 9, the fact that both steel and poison types block the status, other than if the user has corrosion as an ability, and by the fact that toxic is only fully accurate when used by poison types. Of course, toxic spikes can also be spun away or defucked away. Due to these drawbacks and the fact that poison damage is consistent with no other effects, I don't think it really needs any changes. Honestly, in my eyes, it's the perfect status condition. From a glance, paralysis looks super balanced, and despite its randomness, fairly consistent. Para halves the target speed, while also giving it a 25% chance of being unable to act that turn other than switching out. There are more moves that cause guaranteed power compared to burn, but these are also generally balanced by lower accuracy, lower distribution, being Z or G max moves, or being entirely blocked by either ground types or in Dunsparce's case, grass types. Wait, didn't I just say from a glance? But paralysis sounds fine, no worse than burn or poison anyway. So what's my issue then? My issue is that paralysis is a flat 25% each turn, which means that it's very much possible to get paralysed multiple turns in a row. And I'm saying this from experience. Also, this is on top of being sore, and that's just incredibly frustrating to me. The number of battles where I've had triple or even quad paralysis multiple times and just been unable to act has been infuriating. And yes, okay, I know I could lumberry or something like that to get around it, but whatever. I want to make one tiny change to power to make it just a tad less irritating. So, similar to how Protect used to work before Gen 6, I propose having full power chances decreased by half every single turn a full power has just occurred. So after one turn, it will become a 12.5% chance that the user will not be able to act on the second. After 2 turns in a row, it would be 6.25%, etc. This should make things just a little bit less annoying for the paralysed player, while also not changing the game too much, as the luck aspect is still present. Maybe this seems like a bit of a niche or a petty complaint. I don't care. I'm so tired. Alright, let's go to sleep. No? Okay. Oh, play Pokemon Sleep. Okay. Let's stop this bit before it gets out of hand. Why am I like this? Sleep prevents the target from acting for 1 to 3 turns, or, if the user has used rest, then they fall asleep for 3, including that turn, then they can attack on the 4th when they wake up. There aren't actually that many moves that can cause sleep, and all the guaranteed ones. Well, okay, you're gonna get sick of this trend, aren't you? Say the line cam, low accuracy, well, with the exception of Spore, which is blocked by grass types and goggles users, and Overcoat, and also has really low distribution to only slower Pokemon, or Toadschool, which has a slow Spore due to its ability. So yeah, a bit of a frustrating mechanic, but fairly simple, right? Yeah, sure. As long as you don't try to change it. I was originally considering changing the 1 to 3 turn random turns, because early wake-ups versus late wake-ups can piss me off, and that inconsistency I know can piss off other people too. But the more I thought on it, the harder it was to come up with a solution. My first idea was to make sleep a consistent 2 turns, instead of a range of wake-up turns. This would give it increased consistency, thus reducing the frustration of Hax, while also theoretically nerfing it, as 3-turn sleeps would no longer occur. And then I immediately realised that the consistency is an indirect buff to the status, not a nerf, as now the sleep user has a guaranteed 2 turns to either set up, or do whatever the hell they want, and it just won't get interrupted by the potential of an early wake-up. And honestly, that just sounds way too strong, and way too frustrating for the player whose Pokemon is asleep. My next thought was to reduce the timer from 1 to 3 turns to 1 to 2 turns, similar to how Gen 5 sleep used to last up to 4 or more turns depending on the generation. But then at this point, doesn't sleep feel too weak? Like, I feel like up to 3 turns to wake up is a perfect balance. Damn, and here I was initially thinking sleep would be the easiest status to change. Instead, it's kind of impossible. In the end, I decided there was no real solution and that what Game Freak currently have is kinda perfect, even if confirmation bias for me seemingly always last turn waking up, while my opponents always seemingly early wake up has convinced me elsewise. Lol. I just said lol out loud. Why did I write that in the script? I knew I would regret that when I wrote that in the script. And reading out loud, I did. I'm not cutting this bit out though, whatever. Sorry. Only change I guess I'd maybe make is add a built-in sleep clause in game. But I don't know if that's an actual good idea. Because, you know, I don't play VGC. So, like, maybe that would have bad implications there. I don't know. I guess you also could replace it with Drowsy from Legends Arceus, but that just feels like Tesco value paralysis. So you know what, I'm fine with leaving it in that game. Okay, and now, let's move on to my number one enemy, the true target of this video, the most hated of all non-volatiles, the least consistent, the least player friendly, and the least competitive. That's right. Freeze! Freeze prevents the target from acting at all until they are thawed, which is a 20% chance each turn. Which, okay, just seems like a stronger version of power, or an alternative version of sleep. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is that there's no turn cap to freeze. The inflicted Pokemon can genuinely be frozen for perpetuity. The only other way to dethaw is to be hit by a fire move or by tri-attack. No move guarantees freeze due to this absurd potency. Only Secret Power in Snow has a higher percentage chance than a 10% chance to cause freeze. Clearly, Game Freak knew how ridiculous this status was, even after already nerfing it to actually have a thaw chance after Generation 1. Though, I guess they don't know how ridiculous it is enough to completely get rid of it outside of spin-offs. Legends Arceus is technically not a spin-off, my apologies. I went a bit off script there, but again I'm keeping it in, whatever, who cares. Anyway, due to its low chance of occurring and how strong an effect it has, Freeze is honestly, I think, the worst mechanic in the entire series. It just relies entirely on luck with no consistency at all. As, come on, why would your opponent use a fire move on you if they get the freeze? I hate this mechanic so goddamn much. Ugh. No, the easy solution would be to pull a Legends Arceus and replace it with Frostbite, which is essentially a special equivalent of Burn, and is a super cool mechanic, pun not intended. But, honestly, that's too easy and feels almost like a cop-out. No. We are going to try and fix Freeze to be an actual competitive and fairer mechanic in this video. My first of 3 changes is to add a 5-turn cap to Freeze. Anything lower would also be fine, but anything higher would be, in my opinion, ridiculous. And the fact that there is no cap at all, even if the mechanic is quote-unquote balanced by having no way to consistently cause it, yeah, that part's stupid as all hell. I'm honestly surprised Game Freak never added a cap by now, or, as I already said, straight up just removed it outside the Legends. My next change is that on top of the cap, the frozen Pokemon would get an increased chance of thawing out each turn. Similar to my paralysis pitch, I think the chance should double each turn. So, turn 1, 20%, turn 2, 40%, turn 3, 60%, turn 4, 80%, and then guaranteed to thaw turn 5. And my final change is a small one. Frozen Pokemon can thaw themselves out by using a fire move. Hopefully, with these changes, Freeze has been made more in line with other status effects, and will be more inherently competitive, even if admittedly still a frustrating status when it rarely ever happens. And with that, on to part 2 of the video. We're almost there, folks. But, real quick, just before we start, if you've been enjoying the video and want to see more Pokemon content, I'd love it if you liked and subscribed. I'm aiming to reach 500 subscribers by the end of the year. Okay, back to the video. Sorry for that discussion. Digression? Tangent. Yeah, sure. This section should be significantly quicker, as we have less conditions to talk about, less changes to make, and also because I'm on page 4 of a 6-part script, so yeah, definitely should be significantly quicker. Plus, these are all generally significantly less relevant to the meta than the non-volatile changes, due to the fact that switching out cures the effects. I almost had forgotten to explain the difference between volatile and non-volatile, but yes, volatile ones are switching, changes the effects, and they don't last. Since Gen 7, confusion causes the affected Pokemon to have a 33% chance to damage themselves, instead of using the move that they selected. This can occur for 2 to 5 turns, and then on the final turn, when they snap out, they can attack normally. If a Pokemon's physical attack or defense stats are boosted, then confusion will take that into account for the damage calculation. There are quite a few moves that can guarantee confusion, but as the distribution of these are low and most of these moves have low damage output or low accuracy, they aren't really reliable. Other than Petrant and in earlier gens Drachin with Champ, they have reliable ways to cause confusion thanks to their abilities. I only want to make 2 fairly small changes to confusion. The first is a further chance nerf, down to 25%. While 33 is fine, I'd like a bit more consistency with other status effects, so I'm lowering it to match Paralysis' 25%. And the second change is allowing its range of occurring to match with sleeps, so 1 to 3 turns instead of 1 to 5. This should make it less frustrating while still keeping its RNG elements, and still making it at least a little bit frustrating. I mean, if it's not at all, then is it really confusion? Okay, so hear me out on this one, considering it's the least relevant status condition ever. But I'm slightly nerfing infatuation. I wouldn't be surprised if some folks don't even know what infatuation is, considering, nobody ever uses it, but please trust me here. There's a reason, there's logic, I swear. Infatuation prevents the target from acting 50% of the time, and can only be done using Attract on an opponent of another gender, or if a Pokemon makes contact with a cute charm user. Or, apparently, if a Pokemon makes contact with a Destiny Knot holder? Huh. Never knew that. So yeah, okay, I confess, this is the nichest of niche statsies with no reason to change. But I'm gonna do it anyway, and I'm only changing one thing. I'm reducing the chances to not act to 25%, solely because I want consistency in these status effects. This will, admittedly, literally never come up in any battle ever. Why am I doing this? Who the hell cares about infatuation? Here's the other and least popular status condition along with freeze. Flinch. Flinch kinda sucks, honestly. It prevents the user from executing a move similar to freeze, infatuation, and paralysis, but only for 1 turn, and unlike the others, it's a guaranteed you can't act when it happens. So that doesn't sound too terrible, right? When it's only for 1 turn. Especially as there are only 2 moves that guaranteed 100% flinch all the time, not counting Fling because, well, that's super niche. And both moves, Fake Out and Upper Hand, are very use case specific and balanced by the drawbacks. In Fake Out's case, only being able to be used on the first turn, and in Upper Hand, blocking a priority attacking move. What makes Flinch so frustrating though is, as Electric Wind's girlfriend summarised well in her fantastic video from last year, linked somewhere and in the description, it is much harder to play around than any other status condition, due to only few select items and abilities actually blocking it. I think Fake Out is fine, and honestly kind of important, due to its lack of relevancy in singles, and how current it is to VGC, so we won't touch that. And upper hand is slightly niche. To be honest, if anything, I'd buff it. Habit effect packs with status moves too. But that's not relevant to this discussion. So we can leave it as well. But as frustrating as it is though, I can't really think of an easy way to reasonably nerf flinch. Especially as most moves that cause it only have a 30% or lower chance to do so. Perhaps lower those 30% chance to 20 or even 10, and then just keep the current 20 and 10% chances. IDK. Only change I know I want for sure is to remove flinch moves entirely from Serene Grace users' kits. I know Togekiss isn't relevant to an OU, and Shaman Sky isn't particularly great in Ubers, but I think Serene Grace giving flinch a 6% chance to flinch on fairly fast Pokemon like these two is ridiculous, and again, it's not necessarily always about viability, it's about competitiveness and how fun it is. You want the games to be fair, or at least feel fair, and be enjoyable, you know? I know the Dunsparce is slow, and it also has Serene Grace, so I'm sorry for dragging your name here too, mate. But yeah, I think just don't let Serene Grace users have Air Slash. Or maybe nerf Air Slash to have lower accuracy. So that way these Pokemon are less inherently irritating to fight. I mean, 95% is very good. And it is kind of frustrating. Oh, and it's not a status condition, but I'm not changing critical hits, thanks. As irritating as they can be sometimes, they really are too hard to helping people get momentum in bad situations. And I think the game would be a lot more static and less interesting if they were removed. Or even adjusted. I think even like the low chance of them occurring is just right. Well, okay, maybe I wouldn't let Urshifu be able to consistently crit do protect, but again, that's a topic for another video and another day. Researching for this video was fun in the end, because I was so sure I was going to severely change and gut almost every status condition, and aim for consistency above all else. But the more I read, the more I realised that the majority of them are fine, and that luck genuinely is important for giving both players a chance, and to prevent steamrolling from one side. So hopefully I've successfully accounted for that, and all my changes are relatively reasonable, and small tweaks that keep the luck factor and make randomness still present and potent, but just a little less annoying for users by adding minor consistencies. What are your thoughts? How would you change status conditions in Hax? Would you kill Hax entirely? Make it worse? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and special thanks to my Twitch subscribers, The Worst Muppet, Farhoon, Pew, Benji's Dump, and Fantastic. Without your support, this video couldn't have been made. And to any future coffee supporters, thank you too. Have a good one, folks. Love ya. Bye.